We are literally just seconds removed from the big main event on AEW Revolution. I'm very, very concerned about Darby Allin. For those who might have not watched the pay-per-view tonight, Darby Allin took what I believe has to be about as sick of a bump as someone has taken since Mick Foley's iconic Hell in the Cell. Think about that, because there's been some crazy fucking bumps. You might find some crazy shit on the indies somewhere that's just bonkers. But I'm saying in terms of something you see from a mainstream wrestling company, this almost matches or exceeds anything that Mick Foley or Jeff Hardy ever did during the height of the Attitude Era and when things were really crazy in WWE. He dove off a ladder to the floor on top of a pane of glass that was bridged over chairs. And the chairs weren't even like spread far apart to where he could cut right through the glass and land on the floor. The chairs were like close together. So he just bumped on the glass and the chairs. It's not like that helped break his fall or make it easier, and destroyed himself bareback on that window or glass pane and completely lacerated his back to shit. He was just covered in blood instantly and pretty much knocked completely out of the match until the very end when he ran back out and shoved, I think it was Nick Jackson, off the top rope through a table and then hit a coffin drop onto Matt. And then Sting was able to finish the match. But Darby Allin laid it all out there. We had a feeling he probably would, because I think everybody in that ring tonight with Sting wanted to make sure that they did whatever possible, even if it meant shaving a couple of years off their own careers, to make sure that Sting had the proper send-off that they wanted to give him. Probably a lot of pressure on them to make sure that this match is memorable. So you knew that Darby, who just goes balls out for a regular match, we're talking about sending off a Mount Rushmore level icon here out of the business and setting him off into the sunset. What'd you think Darby was going to do? Even on the mic after the match, he said, "I thought I was going to die in this match, but I'm still breathing. Don't worry, Darby. You're going to get a second chance at that death when you climb Mount Everest next month." But I thought the match was a lot of fun. I'm not going to worry too much about the fans that are going to complain about the violence of it. That's what Darby does. And Sting has been kind of wrestling a more hardcore style in his little 3-year run in AEW. He's done a lot of balcony dives and ladder dives through tables. He seems to like to do that. And he had a really fun, undefeated run in AEW. And I loved the way he was used in AEW. I loved how he was presented. I love that he was able to use AEW and have them be his final resting place. And Tony Khan and the company and everybody he worked with, really worked extremely hard to give him that send-off that he deserved in that final match, and then putting this match on last and doing all the crazy shit they did and the kickouts. Sting did a lot of crazy stuff too. He was kicking out at one after multiple EVP triggers and stuff. It wasn't about dissecting and picking this apart. Oh, this doesn't make sense. This is pro fucking wrestling, and wrestling is about fun, and wrestling's about being crazy. Wait until that Cody and Roman Reigns match on night 2. That's probably going to be Bloodline rules. Expect some Dusty Rhodes level booking in that. Sometimes it's totally fine. Did this go overboard? Maybe. You can certainly make that argument, but I wouldn't look at this match as anything other than good and special for Sting. It's what they wanted to present, and it's what they intended on giving us fans. And you knew that the Bucks and Darby weren't going to go out there and just carefully and casually walk through this. It's time to give Sting the ultimate send-off, and I think they did just that. Overall, I thought the pay-per-view was good, but not great. I think it was better than mediocre, but I think we've seen better overall AEW pay-per-views. And a couple of surprises. My predictions, I think I got 2 matches wrong, 7 matches right. We did see 1 title change right. Only 1 title change. I predicted 2, but we only got 1. And I thought overall it was still a really, really fun night of wrestling and a solid pay-per-view that gave us the conclusion of the in-ring career of Sting. And it's fun because, I kind of thought we were already going to have this. I thought we saw the last of Sting in 2015 when he got injured in WWE. And the fact that he even came in at that point, to me, was pretty wild. After his TNA run, I thought that was going to be the end. So I've had 3 different times in my life where I've thought that I've already seen the end of Sting. When WCW got bought out, I'm like, oh, maybe Sting's just going to retire. And then he went to TNA, spent all those years there. And then when he left TNA, came to WWE to do the Hall of Fame, we knew we would get him in a match or two, and we did, Triple H and Seth Rollins, but that was probably going to be about the end of it for him. And then WWE didn't let him wrestle again. And then he came into AEW and wrestled for 3 years in a sweatshirt, and I loved it. And it was a lot of fun. He supplied me as a fan with the best little cherry on top that you could ever put on someone's career. 3 extra years of time that I wasn't expecting to get, and was also fun and entertaining to watch. And his exit storyline was great, announcing it ahead of time and making it to there, because he was still wrestling a lot, still doing crazy shit. I was worried he was going to get hurt or something would happen prior to the pay-per-view that would ruin it or hurt it or harm it or whatever, and it didn't. He went through the retirement tour, made it to this match, the special night in Greensboro, the entrance with the Suns, the first one coming out as Red, White, and Blue Surfer Sting, the other one coming out as NWO Wolfpack Sting. They got involved in the match through some stinger splashes at the Bucks. It was just a ton of fun. And don't forget the special guests. You had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat out there as the special guest timekeeper. Ric Flair was at ringside for this. You also had, sitting at ringside, you had Magnum TA, you had Nikita Koloff, and you had Scotty Riggs. You had Davey Crockett down there at ringside as well. You had some people from Sting's past and the old days of the NWA. I thought it was really awesome. And Greensboro, props to them. I've been in that building many times in my life back when I used to live in the Carolinas, and that is a really fun venue to go to a wrestling show at. And I thought the fans really turned out, especially in the main event. They were vocal. They were cheering hard, booing the Bucks, cheering Sting. It was a really, really nice ending, I thought, for Sting. Maybe they could have been a little bit more better with their time management at the end with the Sting farewell promo, as he did kind of run out of time when he was talking there, but he still was able to say a lot, and I was blown away by how well he was talking, considering he went through a table himself, went through hell in that match. You'd think he'd be winded, but he wasn't. He was able to cut his post-match promo as if he just walked out to the ring and cut it. He didn't even seem or look out of breath, and continued to talk a little bit, and that's when Darby came and whispered in his ear, and then the pay-per-view faded to black. But overall, in terms of the main event, what we got out of it, I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied as a fan that Sting was able to have a last match that is definitely memorable. I think we are going to be talking about that Darby bump for a long time. Maybe if I go back and watch it, it's not going to look as nutty or crazy the second time around, but it made me get up off of my chair, and I went back there and sat on the fucking couch for like a minute and a half because I didn't even know how to respond to it. I didn't know if I just watched somebody die. I mean, Jesus, man. So, I mean, props to Darby. I appreciate his desire to give Sting a moment, but I also question whether or not a move like that was necessary. Take that bump out of this match, and I think you have an equally special match. That's maybe my issue. It's not the fact. I mean, I don't care that Darby wants to wrestle this style. Do it. Do it. It's your body. It's your life. You're crazy. We all know that. You do crazy shit. You fucking put jalapeno oil up your ass crack and stuff. He just does crazy stuff. Just let Darby be Darby. But sometimes, when it's a moment that you already know the fans are going to love and going to remember, and this is all going to be about Sting's final match, maybe you could have just toned it back a bit on that bump. Do something crazy. Take a crazy bump. Fly off something, and all of that stuff is fine. But you made me think you died. And maybe that's just a tad over the top is just all I'm going to say about that. But Darby's Darby. I mean, I watched Jeff Hardy do all this shit back in the day, and I used to think that stuff was crazy. Darby's taking it to a whole nother level of extreme here. So what a crazy show. We're not going to leave just yet. Let me cruise over here, just pull up a website that has the results so I can give you some just quick thoughts on the entire pay-per-view as a whole, since I didn't make any notes when I was hanging out with you guys tonight. But we will start with, there was 2 matches on the undercard. That's right, that Bang Bang Scissor Gang shit, and Statlander and Willow picking up the win on the 0 hour. But the main card began with What opened the show? Oh, yeah, it was the TNT Championship match. Christian taking on Daniel Garcia. I had this one pegged wrong. I thought for sure, since Adam Copeland lives right down the road in Asheville, that he would come out there and maybe cost Daniel Garcia the match, but we didn't see Adam Copeland at all. We just saw Daniel Garcia fall victim to the numbers game. He had Christian on the ropes, had him beat there a couple of times, but Kill Switch was out there, Mama What's-Her-Tits was out there, and Nick Wayne was out there. Nick Wayne took a really sick bump earlier on in the match that knocked him out for the whole match, but then he came back in at the end and cost Garcia the match while Aubrey's back was turned, and Christian was able to hit the kill switch and retain the TNT Championship. Roderick Strong picked up the international title here, defeating Orange Cassidy. Really good match. Had a feeling that Orange Cassidy was going to drop the belt here. They were telling that story a lot on TV, even on the 0 Hour. Doc Sampson was telling Cassidy that he had to tape himself up or he wasn't going to clear him. And Cassidy even went on to tell his friends, Trent and them, not to come to ringside with him or help him out. He wanted to go out there and do it alone. So, of course, he was going to also fall victim, I thought, to the numbers game, but Bennett and Taven weren't out there either. Roddy was able just to flat out beat Orange Cassidy, and then Taven and Bennett came down to celebrate with the new international champion, Roderick Strong, and that's when a returning and long-haired Kyle O'Reilly comes through the crowd, hops the barricade, gets in the ring, acts like he's going to attack them, and then he stops, smiles, hugs Roderick Strong. Bennett takes off his Undisputed Kingdom shirt to give to O'Reilly to welcome him in the group, but O'Reilly doesn't put it on. He puts it over the shoulder of Roderick, whispers something in his ear, and walks away looking upset or something. So who knows what story they're trying to tell there, but Kyle O'Reilly is back. Then I think is when we had that All-Star Scramble. This was Chris Jericho, Wardlow, Powerhouse Hobbs, Lance Archer, Hook, Brian Cage, Magnus, and Dante Martin. Like I said last night in my predictions, when you look at the field, I don't know who it can really be other than Wardlow. I thought Powerhouse Hobbs has a shot, but Wardlow was part of the Undisputed Kingdom, and they've already let their motivations known for what they have planned for Wardlow. They want him to target the World Heavyweight Champion, and Roddy took his step tonight, becoming international champion. So I had Wardlow. I had Undisputed Kingdom having a big night here. So I had Wardlow winning this. He did a little bit of a clusterfuck like this, a scramble match. It was basically the first pin won the match, not like the most pinfalls in the allotted time won the match. So it was a lot of guys just waiting around to do their spots. Not great, but in the end, it was Wardlow getting the win there. After that, I think was Eddie Kingston defending his Continental Crown Championship against Bryan Danielson. This one was really good. Maybe this match was second. This might have been the second match, actually. I'm a little bit out of order here. I apologize. But Danielson and Kingston had a great one, a really great one, and it was better than I thought it was going to be. And I figured it would be Eddie's match to win, especially based on what we saw on Wednesday night with him being choked out by Danielson and Danielson flexing and all of that. I felt like Eddie's got to pick up the win here. He did. And he beat Danielson with the power bomb and pinned him, and there was the show of respect after the match. So we actually did get the handshake, which I am a little bit surprised that we got, but we did get it. And let me see what was after that one. I think that might have been, like I said, I'm way out of order here, but let's talk about the AEW Women's Title match next. Toni Storm defending against Deonna Purrazzo. I loved this because Toni Storm had a really great entrance with Mariah May coming out to Toni Storm's old look with the red hat and the thing and the music. And I thought it was Toni Storm. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Why is she going back to her old gimmick? It was Mariah May. Timeless Toni Storm came out after that. I thought the match with her and Deonna Purrazzo was really good. They know each other well. Deonna's so smooth, but I didn't think Toni Storm was going to be dropping the belt here. She did not. She was able to retain, and I think that was the right call. But of course, Mariah May played a little bit of a role in that. After that, I believe was maybe the Blackpool Combat Club. I'm all over the place here. Blackpool Combat Club, Moxley and Claudio taking on FTR. This one was gritty. This one was bloody. This would be like Tully and Arn Anderson versus Barry Windham and Nikita Koloff or something like that. It was a fun, gritty, old school match. I had this one predicted wrong. I thought FTR would pick up the win here, but Danielson lost earlier, so that means it would have to be a bad night for the Blackpool Combat Club. I loved Moxley and Claudio coming out to the Legion of Doom or Road Warrior shoulder pads. That was awesome. And Dax especially really bled hard in this one. And he was, I forgot where it happened. I think it happened on the post shot on the outside of the ring where he initially got busted open, but then Moxley went to work on him, biting him and literally like trying to open up the wound and punching it. It was fucking disgusting. And Dax had a lot of blood on his face. And in the end, it was Blackpool Combat Club getting the win here. I thought that FTR, basically hometown boys there, would win in Carolina, in FTR country, but they did not. It was Moxley and Claudio getting the win. Somebody in the chat mentioned a good idea with these two teams, maybe do a dog collar match to blow off this issue. It's just a matter of whether or not FTR wants to have that final dog collar match they had with the Briscoes remain sacred, and as a tribute to Jay, perhaps, maybe a thought. But otherwise, in terms of the violent nature of the issue here, I think a dog collar match fits. I think match of the night, at least inside the ropes, it's got to be Will Ospreay and Konosuke Takeshita. That was ridiculously fun. I enjoyed every single fucking second of this match. It was fun. It was hard hitting. It was dazzling and looked to be career shortening. But in the end, there was no way Will Ospreay was going to be losing on his coming out party here, or his first match as a full-time AEW star. And there was a couple times there where I thought Takeshita had it, but in the end, Will Ospreay was able to take him down the entire time. Don Callis on commentary is talking about how great this is, even though I think this was part of the process to remove Osprey from the Don Callis family. I thought maybe it would happen faster than this, but at the end of the match, Osprey and Takeshita did shake hands. We had Kyle Fletcher returning as well, reuniting with Will Ospreay, giving him a hug. They're all leaving together, so the Callis family seems to be stronger than ever. I was laughing at what an idiot Don Callis was on Dynamite. Oh, this is great, guys. This is great, guys. I'm like, can you not see this is going to completely ruin your entire family here? Good stuff there, and I think it was the match of the night. The AEW World Championship match was our semi-main event. When they went to this match, I was relieved because throughout the entire show, I was scared and worried that the Bucks, Darby and Sting weren't going to main event because Renee Paquette apparently in the 0 hour mentioned that the World Championship match was the main event. I did not hear this, but I was seeing a lot of people mentioning in the chat, saw it on Twitter and on social media, that it sounded like that's what Renee said, but she might have just used the words main event, not necessarily going on last. And it might have even been just a Freudian slip. Maybe she just said main event because it's the title and you just instinctively think that's the main event. And so I was hoping that it was like some sort of an accident or miscommunication or misunderstanding. And it was. They went to the video package for the world title match. And I was like, thank you. Thank you, Jesus. So that's the way it needed to be, because this is not going to be the night where Swerve Strickland becomes world champion. I didn't believe this would be the night. There's way too much going on and distraction with him and Hangman Page. Plus, this is a triple threat. Plus, you're not even going to be in the main event. Swerve's crowning, the day that Swerve becomes AEW World Heavyweight Champion, needs to be in the main event of a pay-per-view. It needs its own separate stage. He needs to be celebrating with confetti as the show goes off the air type of shit, and that wouldn't be the case here. And with Hangman Page being so obsessed with Swerve Strickland not becoming champion, you had everything set up here perfectly for Joe to retain. All he had to do was sit back and wait for these two to self-destruct and or cancel each other out or be their own worst enemies and then capitalize on that. And that's pretty much what he did. There was still a lot of drama in this match. There was a couple of times where I actually thought Hangman Page was going to win the title. But in the end, it turned out to be Hangman Page who tapped out. And even the announcers wondered if he tapped out because, you know, Joe interrupted. I think Swerve hit his finisher on Hangman, and then Joe came in, disposed of Swerve, threw him into the corner, started choking Hangman. Swerve is starting to come to try to break up the submission, but then Hangman taps out. So the announcers were like, do you think he tapped out because He just didn't want Swerve to win. He'd rather just end the match here so Swerve does not win the title. That is the story they're telling you with Hangman and the level and degree of obsession that he has. So I felt like everything was perfectly set up here for Joe to retain. And honestly, Joe should not be a 2-month champion. So there's plenty of time. I really hope I don't go on social media tonight and see a bunch of fans whining and crying about AEW fumbling Swerve or whatever. I'm like, no, how can you be a Swerve fan and want him to win the title tonight? What you want is perhaps for him to win the title at that new pay-per-view that they announced tonight. It's going to be in April. I think they said April 21st was the date. It's going to be called AEW Dynasty. So we have another pay-per-view added to the calendar. This is going to be their first ever dynasty, your first ever pay-per-view. Why not crown your first ever Black World Champion? What a perfect place to do it. AEW Dynasty. I was kind of thinking Double or Nothing would be the night for Swerve, but Dynasty might be better. Plus, I think MJF is coming back soon, so you don't want to, even though I thought tonight wasn't the right night for Swerve to win the title, you don't want to wait too long, you know? So Dynasty now being on the calendar, now we got a whole nother shot at this thing. And this maybe Dynasty is maybe there's one more stop before Swerve wins, because I still think you have to have now maybe one more crazy blow off with Swerve and Hangman. The winner gets the next title shot or something like that. You could do that on Dynasty. Where I would do it is Big Business. I would do Hangman, Swerve at Big Business. The winner faces Samoa Joe at Dynasty. That's what I would do. Then Swerve wins, goes to Dynasty, wins the title, main event, everybody's happy. I would do that. Or do it at Double or Nothing. Do it wherever the fuck. Doesn't matter. Point is, when Swerve wins, should be the main event. Should be the last thing you see. And shouldn't be in a triple threat situation where he wins the title by not pinning the champion. None of that shit is what a Swerve fan should want. So none of you should be bitching tomorrow or today or tonight. Just chill, patience. It's not wrestling fans' strong suit, but I'm begging you to have some in this case because I think Swerve is going to have his moment. He's too good. You saw it tonight. This guy is main event ready. He's there. He's world champion material. It's all there. It's just a matter of when the right time to pull the trigger on him is. It wasn't tonight, sorry to say, because tonight was about Sting and Darby Allin. Especially Sting and his final night, his final match. We talked about it here just a little while ago, how crazy it was and how bonkers Darby Allin is. I really hope he's going to be all right. I think Darby Allin needs to disappear from AEW until after he comes back from his Mount Everest suicide trip and mission. But what he did tonight was above and beyond the Call of Duty. He's always like that. But, you know, even if I'm Sting, you know, when I'm getting in the back there, I'm like, look, kid, I love you, but fuck me. You know, did you have to do all that now? I mean, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy.